Where's Mr. Dan? We're live. We are live.
We're live now?
There you go.
So the deal breaker. All right. Hey, hello everyone, and welcome to our forum here tonight.
How many people are from
Boston? Right here. All right. Great. You're in the right place then, because this is the Oversight County Forum. Tonight we're going to be hearing from Eileen Riverside, right here. Raise your hand. And Jim Herwood. Raise your hand, Jim, just so you don't get them confused.
Sounds good.
Welcome to everybody out there on the internet. Thank you for watching here tonight. And this is on the Dudes Talking Freedom podcast, if I'm not mistaken, their Facebook page. So be sure to share, everybody out there. We want to get the word out and get as much information in the hands of voters as possible. So tonight is all about. My name is Dan Thomas, and I work with a group called we're all about. But essentially, the short story on us is that we are there to defend your freedom in Collin County. We're a nationwide group. We're in 100 counties, or hope to be eventually, in the entire country. We started in Florida. We have several organizations here in the DFW area. We're focused on just a small number of counties in the country, because that's all it takes to defend our freedom. And that's something the left has figured out a long time ago. We're concentrated on reaches of freedom locally. So we're watching county commissions, we're watching city council races, and we're watching school board races closely. But most importantly tonight, we want to put a lot of that aside and just get to know what is in the lives of these two people here. So we got a lot scheduled for you tonight. We're going to go ahead and get started, though, the right way with the national anthem. So we can welcome Lila Joy Thomas. Who's going to sing that. Okay, remain standing for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, and we do have a few more things to get to before we jump into the questions for the night. First of all, this is being organized by the Prosper Citizens Group. We have Doug Charles here with that organization, as well as the Common Ground Texas. And I mentioned before, of course, Dudes Talking Freedom, the podcast, a great way to follow it, not following it all. So thank you all for being here in attendance tonight. I guess we've got a few folks still coming in. If you see anybody out in the hallway, tell them to get in now because they're going to miss it. So, and be sure, again, anybody watching online, be sure to share this. Let's get the information out to as many voters as possible. Okay, so with no further ado, are you guys ready? Whoa. Are we ready now? Okay. All right, we're going to just start very easily. We're going to leave that mic right there. It's going to try to pick up both of you. So not to show any bias here, we'll put it directly. So no fighting over it. Then pick up that mic when it's your turn to speak, and it'll go out over the speakers. And I think you should be able to get the audio out to everybody online. If anybody online can't hear it, by the way, go ahead and write in, because we've got a top-notch technical crew behind the scenes manning every aspect of this broadcast. So if there's any kind of problem out there, everybody let us know. Okay, so we're going to just start tonight. We're going to give these guys 2 minutes just for opening statements, and then give us an idea of how long you've lived in the Prosper ISD area, if you currently have any kids in the Prosper ISD school system, and of course, what you think makes you qualified as a trustee. So we'll start out with a 2-minute opening statements, and then throughout the evening, we're going to give them 2 minutes to answer each question. And then if any of you feel like, either of you feel like there's a rebuttal that's needed, I'll give you 1 minute for a rebuttal after the question has an answer each. Okay, guys, are we ready? All right, we did rock, paper, scissors, and I don't know who won that. So, I did the rock, paper, scissors? No. Oh, is that right? So my daughter's the one that, no, she didn't tell me. So which one of them starts? Oh, Eileen. Okay. All right, so we're going to start with Eileen here tonight. Eileen, just pick up that stick mic. Make sure it's on. This is more than I did before, so you should do your very close. All right. Okay, it's on. But it's one of those mics where you have to put it as close to your tonsils as possible. So there you go. Yes.
Definitely tempted.
All right, take it away. We'll give you 2 minutes.
I actually thought I'd be like walking around and pacing, because it's kind of what I do when I'm on stage. So this is a little bit different. My name is Eileen Riverside. I've lived here since 2017. What is that, 6 years now? 6 years. So I have 4 children. They are 7, 6, 3, and 2. And I've been married now for almost 10 years. He had to hold up his fingers. And he is a teacher at Rock Hill, which in case you don't know where that is, it's all his arm is across. Because I ended up at Reynolds first. Because Reynolds, Rogers, Rushing. Rocker. I have a daughter that goes to Rocker. She's in dual language. She's in 2nd grade. And I have a son that goes to Stuber, and he's in kindergarten. The reason I ran for school board was very last minute. It did take a lot of thought, but it was last minute. It was because of the January board meeting. I stood up at multiple of these board meetings. My daughter goes to Rocker. She was one of the children on that school bus that was affected. And when I stood up at that January board meeting, I looked at the billboard in the face and listened to him tell me that the investigation, the secondary one, was closed, but we're not going to talk about it. We have to talk to our criminal lawyers first. But as far as we're concerned with this case, it's closed. And then he got arrested 2 days later. And that's when I decided that was enough. I had to do something. Oh, sorry.
We need a better system. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead and speak for another 30 seconds. All right. Here, we'll get a better system now. Shannon, you want to maybe sit over here and just hold up your fingers? And she'll show you how many minutes you have left, and, yeah, keep those. Okay, can everybody see Shannon as your student? Okay, so she'll give you a 1, and then, this for 10 seconds.
Okay.
All right?
10 seconds. How about this?
Yeah, there you
Does
go.
that work?
Even better. Even better. Okay, all right.
Makes sense.
Okay. All right, go ahead, Jim.
Right, my name is Jim Irwin, and I've lived in Prosper since 1996. And the primary reason that I'm running is because I want to bring what I call true transparency to the district. And by that, I want to use what I do in my day job, which is I'm a forensic CPA. And I spend my time evaluating evidence, and then I testify to financial damages in the court. And so what I want to do here is bring that same sort of service to the district. And I want us to open up some of the curriculum, some of the books, policies. We all know there's issues going on in education all across the state, all across the country. And we're not immune from that. So a lot of people are throwing darts, and what I want to do is to stop the dart throwing. Let's look at the evidence and find out what we got. And if we've got a lot to fix, we'll fix it. And if we don't, we won't. That to me is what transparency is opening this thing up and taking a close look at our policies and procedures. Another thing, key issue for me is academics. And I know the district has slipped in scoring, and then has recently come back up. But I want to make sure that Prosper ISD maintains to be the best district in the state. I want us to lead. I want us to lead not only in academics, but in transparency. And if you elect me, I will work diligently to make sure that happens. Thank you.
All right. We'll start with the first question, and we'll, since you got to go first, we'll start with Jen on this question. And we'll give you 2 minutes to answer. This is over the entire debate. Each of you will get 2 minutes to answer this question. And then if either one of you feels like you need a minute to reply, just let me know. We'll do 1 minute. Otherwise, we'll just move on to the next question. Okay. All right. So, of course, both of you realize that this is a huge time commitment. So our question is, do you have the time personally? Have you considered what it would mean for your lives, and how do you plan to carve out the time to do this? Jeff?
I own my own accounting firm and have been able to leverage that out to other folks to help me get the work done. And so far, it's working very good. We all have our time when we're really busy and really slow. Like right now, is tax season for me. And I've got that leveraged out so that we can, like I said earlier, get the work done properly. So I do have the time to do this. I'm a grandfather. We don't have kids at home anymore. I've got a wife who takes great care of me, and so everything's in good shape there. So the time commitment is not an issue for me.
Well, my husband is a school teacher, so he typically works the regular school schedule, which is Monday through Friday. He takes my other 2 kids to school, so he's usually gone from about 7 to 4. But as a nurse, I work weekend nights, and so we actually switch our schedules so somebody is pretty much always with their children. And so that does give me the availability both during the school week and in the evenings, except they're on weekends. I do have in-laws that live in Richardson that are actually watching my children right now. With them being fairly close, the children are close with their grandparents.
All right, fantastic. Okay, all right. Next question is, now, if elected, what are your top priorities and tell us why? Let's start with you.
If elected, my biggest priority is more of the transparency. That all came about because of the bus incident. They hired a secondary law firm, but they won't talk about it. They gave the superintendent a raise, but we haven't released her contract yet to spell out all of the details. They extended her contract, and it's like, okay, well, I I mean, it was already extended through 27, now they extended it through 28. And that seems really odd because in all of my time working in trauma, I've never seen a case where you have somebody that's accused of something that ends up getting a large reward instead. So transparency is really important to me. Also being a teacher's wife, I get to see some of the stuff that happens with parents, with students, and some of the concerns that come about from there. And so to bring some of those forward to the forefront so we can discuss it is a big thing for me. And to have the parents' involvement, because sometimes, sitting up here, it's not exactly easy. Standing in front of a board meeting after you listen to a band play a song for everybody, we go through numerous awards, it's really intimidating. Plus, we have somebody in the district with our dual language program that don't speak English completely fluently, and that can be embarrassing and troubling. And we shouldn't have to scare them when it's a concern. A concern would be a valid concern for more than one person, and we should be able to address it without that fear.
Okay, that's Jim. Do you need me to repeat the question? Okay, go ahead. Take it away.
I agree with what Eileen just said. I think this transparency issue is key. I mentioned earlier in my opening that I really want to open up this district. Can you guys hear this?
Yeah.
Because I want to stop all of the throwing the darts and people going over to the darts. Let's be accurate in what we're talking about. If we have issues, let's fix them. We could take the contract issue that Eileen brought up. That has not been settled. They have sort of kind of addressed it, and I think the way they're saying is everything is over, but it's never been explained, so we know there's more. And we need to understand, we are parents, we are partners in this deal. And if you're not going to treat us like a partner, then we're going to end up acting upset, and we're going to ask a lot more questions than you ever probably would. So what I want to do, for example, is take all the freedom of information that a lot of you guys have gone through. If we could get it on the internet, then just put it on the website and let us see it. Don't make us go through this laborious process of trying to find all these documents that we're entitled to see. The contract that I've mentioned, we are entitled to see that. Put it on the website so we can see it. Don't make us pay to get to this. So those are just some of the little things, and I don't want to see our community get to where they're questioning and being concerned about everything. I'd like for each and every person in this community to be able to put their head down on the pillow, and I know the things are being taken care of in the process.
All right, thank you, Jim. Now, and Jim, we'll start with this one.
If I take the mic off of him, give it to Jim, and then have Eileen put it on her, they'll be able to hear their answers. Cool.
Well, I guess I have.
Can you put the mic closer to you? People are having a hard time hearing you. That one, and then if you don't mind giving Eileen the one on your lapel, that way they can, because people can't hear you. So, yeah, just give Eileen that one, and then Jim, if you can put that on your lapel.
Both you clip yours on, yeah.
Just clip them on, that way they can hear you better. Yeah, there you go.
What is it?
You still need that. That's going out live. The lapel's live. Yeah. No, you're good. Yeah, no, you're, yeah, he's good.
I can't hear myself.
All right, back to the debate now. All right, so there's been an incredible divide across the debate because of recent events in the district. How will you bring the community back together?
All right, and we have addressed this sort of. I think the way you bring the community back together is what we as trustees need to have is robust debate before we take it. Right now, it's too quiet before we take it, and I'll give you an example. When the president of the school board vacated his seat, the school board had to vote on whether there be an election or they appoint the school board member. Well, when they came out of executive session and talked about that, they chose to appoint, and nobody told you why they were choosing an appointment over election. Nobody appoints when you have the option to have an election. It's just un-American. So it rubs everybody the wrong way. But to me, if you're gonna come out and appoint a position, then at least tell me why you're doing it. So I might be able to make sense of it. I don't think I could, but I would at least be able to try and make sense of that. So that's just an example. I believe that you give transparency, you treat parents like they're partners, and when they feel like a partner, they've got some input in the game, and they're heard, and then I think that's happening, and understand why things are being done.
If you'd like to restate the question.
I agree with Jim. We really should have had an election rather than an appointment. I am thankful though that they did push off the appointment until after May, because we don't know who those two new board members are or deem to stay. And so, I mean, that's a plus. But as for having the election, I mean, we should have. And uniting the parents, I think the big thing that I was saying earlier is that we don't want parents to be afraid. When we were talking about this bus thing again, back in September, before they made any of the changes that they announced, they had a sniper on top of a car wash that was pointing at all of the moms and dads that were standing outside Harvard. That's why. I understand that they tried to rationalize it as, well, we're protecting the population. And like, who? Their parents. And they just held signs, they didn't have a giant media presence, they had a little media presence. There were maybe 40 people there. There was no reason to intimidate them in that way. So I feel like we have to be able to talk to these parents without making people afraid, and to be open and welcoming to them and to their comments and to their questions.
Thank you very much. And please want to rebuttal, okay?
I'm getting the rebuttal.
Yeah.
Okay. And what I want you to know is that if I'm elected in May, I will vote for an election if that is an option. Because Eileen's right, I have to push the vote to the elected board after the May election. And like I said, I'm willing that I will vote and push to have a special election in the summer. If that's an option, we have it.
Okay. Eileen, you didn't know that. You can rebuttal this rebuttal.
I mean,
We're all letting go.
that's one, it's not really, it's just something that I thought about, because I know that with campaigns and everything, we're talking about what we want to do, we have all these plans, but the biggest thing is you might not actually see it. Because in order to even get something on the school board agenda, it takes 2 people to do it. We've heard that Linker tried to get different items onto the agenda, but we saw that when we voted, it was 5 to 1. You have to have at least 2. So hopefully, if we can get some sort of change happening in May, we can get the 2 people that it's gonna take to make some change. And even if you don't see the change, that vote will be out there. So that way people can see that we're trying something different.
All right, thank you. How will you drive transparency and accountability in our system?
For transparency, I mean, Jim and I both sat through this meeting with all of the new up-and-coming people that are trying to run for this election. And that lawyer stood in front of all of us, and it's just like, I can't stop all these board members from speaking. They have their own minds. They just have to make sure they say, this is my
I can play this one.
opinion, not the opinion of the board.
It's going to sound just as loud with the echo.
6 people on the board, and Linker did it once. We haven't done it since. It feels like you should be able to say, we went into closed session. These are at least the general topics we talked about. You don't have to drop names, you don't have to drop lawsuits, you don't have to say explicitly what we were talking about. but there's no recap at all. And on some of the agendas, when you're looking at them, they're just numbers. We're talking about blah, 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 blah. Awesome. I don't know what that is. You start looking up Texas law and it turns into something else. And it's like, I don't see how this relates to anything else. And so, bringing it back to transparency.
Transparency.
Yeah, bringing it back to transparency, there needs to be more discussion. There needs to be, at the board meetings, people actually talking to each other about different things that are happening. I mean, if we can do it while we're campaigning, why can't we do it when we're on the board?
All right, Jim.
I think Arlene's right. What I tried to do, I sat
Well, it wasn't
on
gonna be much of a debate because Jim and I agree on.
I sat on the school board in Richardson back in the 90s. And if you don't have robust debate, and a lot of people view that term as fighting. It's not fighting. It's talking through the issues, it's being persuasive, it's a conversation. And if you don't have that, then nobody knows why you're doing what you're doing. I'll give you an example again, back on the election versus the appointment. The school board president vacated the seat. I would have asked for legal counsel to come out in front of the public and explain to the board what the options are. And completely what they are according to the law. Do we have the option to vote for an election? Do we have the option to vote for an appointment? So then everybody understands the score. I know what you have to do is engage in discussion at the board table. If you don't do that, then nobody, again, understands why you make the vote that you make. So we have to put people on the board who are gonna not be afraid to create robust debate. And if you are, then we're gonna have the same thing, because, I mean, I sat through that meeting with her and I listened to them tell us how we have to trust and have consensus. And I mean, it was really horrible, but they did the same thing back when I was on the school board in the 90s. It was all about go along, get along. And I find to have town halls. And I'm going to talk with people because I want to know, that's how you know. But electorate today doesn't really know what's going on in the district.
Thank you, Joe. And so, in the interest of transparency, I should say that we invited other candidates here. These are only two candidates in the race for the place 5 spot. We invited other candidates. These are the people who showed up. So that's a big part of this job, is showing up. So I thank both of you for being here tonight. And I want to say to anybody watching online and anybody in the audience, if you have any questions or any follow-up questions as well, be sure to send those in if you're online. We'll get to some questions later if we have time. If we don't have time, be sure to follow up one-on-one with these candidates, okay? So let's get back to asking a few questions. I just wanted to say that to get some more break because we're about to get into what could be a hot and heated area of policy.
Do we have an end time?
We did 8:30 is our end time. And even though we gave you 2 minutes to answer, if you want to have to take the whole 2 minutes either. So that's a maximum, not a minimum. So, so you guys are doing the right thing so far. Love it. All right, so let's start off with a hot button issue for people out there. What is your position on allowing students to use the bathroom of their choice based on their gender identity? And let's start with Jim.
Let me make this very simple for everybody. Boys are boys and girls are girls. Little boys grow up. Little boys grow up to be men, and they grow up to be sometimes daddies. And mamas, little girls grow up to be mamas and they turn into ladies. That's it. It's very simple. Anything else, I think personally, somebody needs therapy. We need to guide these children into reality, not taking them into some fantasy land or dysphoria land. It's just not good.
Okay, well, I've been in healthcare now for 17 some odd years. So the human body, I guess, appears a little different than for me, I just never really thought bathrooms were that big of a deal.
Yes.
You have a stall, and as long as you're like in a decent stall that doesn't have like a 4-inch gap, I For a bathroom, I don't think it really matters. It changes a little bit when you're looking at like bathrooms. I know that at least in my mother's school back in Ohio, there has to be something different, because at her school, there is one, it's a smaller school. There is one male bathroom on the upper floor, a male bathroom on the lower floor, or whatnot. And they closed the entire bathroom for that entire gender for one person, for an entire class period. Nobody can use the bathroom for that one person. And that just seems a little extreme. I mean, for one, it's bathroom. But for two, you're infringing on everybody else when they have to do a normal bodily function that some people can't just dash to the opposite side of the building. I mean, we've seen the crowded halls. So, I mean, in regards to the bathroom, I want people to take care of business so we don't get used to that and that stuff. That's my history. Sorry. But people should be able to use the bathroom when they need to use the bathroom.
Okay. Any recalls? Okay, we'll move on. Are you willing to stand out against the majority of the board members and do what is right, even if it alienates you from the other board members? I can guess that both of you will probably say something along the lines of yes. So I'm going to add a little extra to that. Give me an example of standing alone in your life when you stood out against the crowd as well. And let's start with Eileen.
I was still thinking of the board meeting, because with my daughter on the bus, we go back to August when we found out that I was after I was working. And you had September when there was massive outrage. The entire room was filled with standing only. They walked out and I'm like, so we need everyone to vacate the middle because it's a fire safety. And then the people actually like squished together to make as much space in the middle. And that's, everybody cared. It was such an important topic. And then by December, there were like 20 people. That was what was left of all of the support from all of the parents. And I've spoken at every single board meeting since October. I'm sure those board members love seeing my face every single day. And it's an awkward situation to be in, because these are the exact same people that I'm gonna have to work with at the same time, where it's just like, hey, so I have this problem, and you're ignoring me. Quit ignoring me, let's address the problem, let's move on. But yet, month after month, they never added anything to it. So that's when I've gone against the board for the last 6 to 8 months. And stood by myself as the last house mom that wants some sort of answer.
Okay. Jim, would you like to?
No, I'm good. What you did with me is I actually served on the school board and I stood against the board. And you go back and check the record, there were a lot of 6-1 votes on the school board of Richardson. That was back in the days when they were trying to push sex education, which would seem extremely tame to what they're doing today. I fought against that. There was a program called Girls 2000. For those of you that are my age and up, you will remember Girls 2000. It was a George H. Bush initiative. It was fraught full of socialism, and I was opposed to that. I've spoken in school board meetings where I have really come out from the board table and gone out where the parents speak and spoken to my board. You have to do it. I sat in the training classes where they're telling me about consensus. And I didn't do it with Eileen at that meeting when we were at the Rickson. I almost did. And they started going through all this consensus stuff. I was like, oh my gosh, this is nation of movement. So not everybody's wired to stand. Okay? Many of you in this room may not be wired to stand. There's nothing wrong with it. The Lord wired me to stand. Sometimes I wish He hadn't, because we get in situations of controversy. But we have to stand for what's right. Okay? I use this analogy a lot. I'm looking for the William Wallaces of the world, you ever watched the movie Parental? I don't have a whole lot of time for wild Bruces. So I want people that are gonna stand and do the right thing. And that's what we have to do to maintain the academic excellence in our schools.
What do you think about the prevalence of drugs in our schools, and how do you address this problem? Jim, we'll start with you.
I hear about the drug problems in the schools, but if you were asking me really how bad is it, I don't know. I honestly don't know. But it gets back to the transparency issue, and it even falls back to another issue that everybody needs to be made aware of. Our current Prosper ISD police reports to the superintendent. I don't agree with that line of report. I think, or I believe that the Prosper ISD should report to the local police department. My understanding is that they can't report to the Prosper PD because of jurisdictional issues, so they have to report to something like the sheriff. That's the way it needs to happen. That way, the criminal charges needs to occur. They're happening. But now what you've got is reporting to the superintendent gives her the latitude to do things that a police department might not do unless she's well versed in the law, and maybe she is. I think just to take away any criticism of that reporting, you have Prosper ISD Police Department report to a police department. That makes sense to me.
Okay, so from what I've heard, specifically from my husband, in regards to drugs in school, I mean, they took all the doors off, the entry doors and all of the bathrooms off because people were vaping. And this has been going on for a few years. More towards the beginning, people didn't really know that vaping was that awful for you. You didn't know about popcorn lung, the different diseases that can occur with long-term vaping use. And so that became the drug of choice for Prosper. It's easy to get, you only had to be 18 to buy it, they used to come in all sorts of different flavors. I mean, who wouldn't want to smoke something that's chocolate flavored? And so that was one of the issues that they have, and they're trying to figure out all these different ways to deal with it. Because not only that, they also had issues because they had mirrors in the bathroom, and the mirrors started reflecting into the hallway. Whoops, had to take the mirrors down. So between that, between some of these drug overdoses that we're having with fake pills, because the fake pills, they look exactly like the ones that I get in the hospital. Exact same numbers, exact same markings. We had the lady that overdosed in Plano. She was from Plano High School. We had 3, I think it was 3 that passed, 8 that were affected that were in, I believe, North Richland Hills. Those are close to us, and they affect our students as well. We might not be able to detect it as quickly or as fast, but these are things that we have to work against.
And another thing I think we need to do is address our policy. I mean, I remember when I was in school, this will sound really old school to some of you, but I mean, you couldn't even chew gum in class. You got in trouble. Okay, so if we don't have a policy that directly addresses the issue of vaping or whatever the drug violation would be, then we need to have that. It'd be like having a police department, all they ever issue is warnings. You can speed up and down the street, but you're going to get a ticket. So let's have some transparent consequences for this sort of behavior, so everybody knows the game, and they know if you do it, this is what happens. If you're not going to do that, then I think this drug problem is going to continue to rise.
I'm pretty sure we do have a zero tolerance drug policy in place. The problem is, pills are tiny, they hide, and vaping, you can do an install, it doesn't leave like the lingering smoke smell everywhere. They're perfectly fine. The other thing that we have is, at the last board meeting, we weren't super open with what Narcan was for. We know that the nurses and police officers carry it, but it was only listed as being used for
Questions from
fentanyl,
the
but it can be used on 500 different opioids that are out there. And then you can attempt to use that on any overdose that you see.
All right. As school board trustees, how will you address the falling academic standards of our middle and high school core programs and restore those programs to preparing students for college and trades? Eileen, we'll start with you.
One of the concerns that I have is how the final exam is created. My husband teaches AP Physics. He teaches calculus. Well, he used to teach calculus. He doesn't teach calculus here. He teaches AP Physics. And the final exam for AP Physics is written before the first day of school, which means that you're not testing these students on what they're actually learning in class. The labs that my husband presents are different than the labs that they have at Prospect High. But the exam has to be the same for both. And it isn't necessarily a question, answer type of exam. In one instance, they had to build a boat that would float across the Neptune. That covered the entire year of physics. I mean, physics is a class that I didn't do well in, but there is a lot more to physics than trying to make a boat float.
Jim, would you like to question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. As board trustees, how will you address the falling academic standards in our middle and high school core programs and restore those programs to preparing students for college and trades?
College and what?
Trades. The trades.
You know, what I would really like to see is to turn the curriculum writing back to the teachers. And I want us to take control of what we're doing. I mean, I can remember my mother, when she taught, all of her grade got together and they taught, and the evaluation of the fourth graders was the fifth grade teacher, and we got the fifth grade. A lot of the testing that we do today is not, in my opinion, is really not testing for these students to go to college or to go to their vacation, not vacation. And so I want to see more teacher involvement in driving this ship as opposed to state driving forward. And that's what we have right now. Everybody's basically bowing down to Caesar, which I would say is the TEA, is asking, and whatever they tell us to do, we're doing. And then we use it as our excuse. And what I say is, it's time to do the right thing. Let's make sure our kids are getting what they need. I know there's a lot of notebooks, I don't even mess about elementary, but there's a lot of these notebooks that are at the elementary level, and I'm like, these kids need to learn how to read, write, and do math. And I want to make sure they get that skill. And I want teachers and administrators to feel more accountable, and I think they will if we give them the road of latitude to be in charge of it.
Okay. Now it's alleged the teachers are routinely asked to raise student grades at the end of each quarter in direct violation of PISD board policy and TEA rules. How would you go about addressing this issue, and if proven true, what are some of your ideas to stop this practice, or you might say pressure, on teachers? Jim, we'll start with you.
Well, I guess first of all, I'd like to know why they're doing this. And anybody that's violating policy needs to be done. And I don't mean that in a roll heads or anything, but you do have to deal with it. You have policies, everybody is expecting compliance with those policies unless you're going to stay the real laws. If you're going to openly violate policy, then that's a huge problem, whether it's in business or in the schools. So we need to address that heads up.
I don't know if this was your question or mine, dear.
It's not alleged.
It's not one, we have a teacher in the audience who says I should have said all that.
I know what's happening.
So, with, because I know the situation that happened. I know that we have rules in place that are supposed to take place in regards to students that are in sports and not to get admin involved in trying to change grades, or saying, oh, well, you know, we found this rule to skirt around so that way they can still play. I mean, we have so many zero tolerance policies that we hold the children to, or that we should hold the children to, and at the same time, we don't do that as admin. Because if the admin are the ones that are trying to skirt the rules, I mean, we have superintendents, we have the vice superintendent, there are people that are above them that should say, this is unacceptable, why are you even trying to do this? I understand that sports are a part of school and that we want to do well, we want to excel, but academics should come first. It should not be up to one student to, you know, carry your entire team to the point that your grade is affected, because what are we showing that to the student? We're not teaching them anything, and then we're not showing it to whatever school that they're trying to go to for college.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, 1 minute.
I mean, in the real world, you're not doing anybody any favors by padding the grade. I mean, it's unfair to the student. It's almost disgraceful. And I don't know if this is true, but if it is, it's got to stop. If it was helping the kids, that'd be one thing. But you know, all of us are adults. When you're out working, it doesn't happen. I mean, do you get a second chance if you mess something up? That's called fix it. Let's get it fixed, and let's do our best to make sure that doesn't happen again. But I want students to feel the pressure, if you will, of what it takes to succeed in the real world. And part of that is you got to make your grades, and there's no bluffing on that. And if you don't, you don't. You learn a good lesson from it. And we should stick to our policies. And I know we hear a lot about this zero tolerance, but I've seen a lot of zero tolerance policies that have literally no teeth. It's no good if you say you got zero tolerance and people are getting under it.
Okay. Okay, we'll move on to the next question. Now, this is one, when we started here, we did the Pledge of Allegiance to the American flag. We didn't have the Texas flag. I'm going to let you in that. I want to know what your thoughts are, and this doesn't have to be a full 2 minutes. Do you support reciting the Pledge of Allegiance in school, and what about the Texas flag? Let's start with Eileen.
I mean, I'm all for the pledge. I think that's important, teaching our kids at least some culture and tradition. And you're also establishing an order, because this is how you start a meeting, this is how you do things. I think that's a good thing. But as for the Texas one, I don't actually know the Texas one. I didn't grow up here. My husband did. I mean, I'm assuming that it's just as fine to recite it as well. We live in Texas. We are Texans. People like moved from other places to be in Texas, so I don't see anything wrong with that.
Jim?
People have shed blood for that flag. And the day our country decides we no longer want to pledge the allegiance to the flag, it's a sad day in America. A lot of people think it's just ceremonial, but every time I recite the pledge or sing the Star Spangled Banner, I know people have died for our freedoms. They've died for our value system. They have paid the price so we can have the life that we have today. It's got to be in all of us.
Do you think that it's the district's role to broadly prepare each student to pursue higher education and to enter the workforce? If so, what are your thoughts on what the district does well and could do better? And let's start with that.
I mean, the school district has 3 different levels that they have. So you have your AP college track, these are students that go to college. You have your vocational certificate track, where they can learn a vocation, whether they're an auto mechanic, they're a chef, they're a CNA, they're going into the workforce. And then you have the college and military readiness. Now, my understanding is that's our newest program. We're not super close to a base, so I can understand where that might need some help. one of the concerns that I have, at least for the AP, is a meeting that my husband was in where it was an administrator who literally said, do we really have to tell the parents that we're not preparing them for college? We don't have to prepare them for college. That's just some of the children. All right, well, some of the children is a third of the district. And those are children that chose to take the AP class. They're choosing to go to college, and you're telling them that college doesn't matter, and that we should hide that from the parents. That's ludicrous for one, but that's one thing that we have to work on. But the AP courses that we offer, we have a lot of them, and those teachers are amazing. And our vocations are amazing too. Have you tried food from their culinary arts department? That culinary arts department is state of the art, and those students are good at what they do. So we are preparing them in certain ways, but at least for our students that are going to college, we do need to prepare them a bit more.
I believe the district does a good job here. If I had to do it all over again, I went to Texas A&M, got my accounting degree, been practicing accounting for the last 40 years. I was talking to the gentleman in the back, he's real estate, and I would bet 6 ways a Sunday I put in way more hours than him, and he makes 50 times the money than I'll ever think about making. So I'm not so sure I should have gone the vocational route and studied real estate. But I believe our district is doing good here. There's nothing, I remember when I was a kid growing up, if you were going to taking the vocational route and not the college route, it was kind of deep, as though you were going through a lesser hardship, if you will. But that's not the case. Vocation is important, and you can do very, very well and have a great living and a great life. And you can ask my wife, I'm coming in at 6:30, 7 o'clock at night, and always late working. And I'm not saying I'm the hardest working guy in America, I'm not. But I just think there are incredible opportunities in our district, vocationally and college-wise, and if you want to go to the military, that's great.
Okay, this is going to wrap up our policy portion here. Prayer in schools become politicized. What is your position on prayer in school and why? And we'll start with Jim.
This is a tough one. I'm a believer in Christ, and I am a prayer person. I believe in prayer. I believe that Christ died for each one of us. But the thing you don't do, and this is getting off track a little bit, is you can't push Christianity on anyone. And so I think all people should be allowed to pray. I think the predominant religion in our area is Christianity. So you're going to see people praying as Christians, nothing wrong with that. And as a believer in Christ, I have to get over the fact that people are going to pray to somebody other than Christ. And it's okay for me to disagree with that. It's okay for you to disagree with me when I pray for Christ. So I'm kind of open on that. I'm not real big on we got to supply all these areas for people. Just pray in your seat, pray when you're, I was going to say pray when you're driving. You can do that, just keep your eyes open. It's all good. So I don't mean to be waffling around, but I don't really have a hard and fast stance on this. But I don't want to be criticized for praying myself for my faith.
I feel like part of this question came from that football player that was praying openly after they won a game. I don't have a problem with that. When you're talking about prayer actually in school, they start every single day of all the grade levels, I think. But definitely at the high school level, they start every single day with a few moments of silence. And that is the perfect way and the perfect time to start your day with your prayer. Because Jim's right, not everybody's Christian. People do pray differently. They pray in different styles. And they pray for different things. They shouldn't necessarily start each class with, can I have a volunteer, please? But they do give opportunities to the students to pray. The one thing that I did find kind of off-putting a little bit is that they do pray at board meetings. And I love that I've now heard all of them pray. And that doesn't bother me so much. But when you're a parent with a concern and you have all of these people saying how wonderful the district is and going through all of the congratulations and everything that they do, and everybody's super excited, and then you have them praying for open hearts and to hear our message, and then realizing that they're not hearing us at all, they're just ignoring us, was painful. So I'm not sure if that could also change to a moment of silence or not, because, I mean, I do like that they do pray, but at the same time, I want to be respectful of everybody that is present there as well.
Okay, we'll move on to your approach as a trustee. We've got a few questions in this area. It appears that no investigation into how the district handled the bus predator ever took place, as at least 2 FOIA requests, public information requests, were answered with, quote, "These documents do not exist." So given this example, define your approach in handling issues like this, and how will you keep the public informed as a trustee? Joe, we'll start with you.
As I mentioned earlier, I plan to have town hall meetings to talk to people about what's going on in the district. I think this specific incident has not been handled properly. Everything's too close to the vest. I thought I heard at a board meeting that they said everything was okay, but they said it so softly. I wasn't for sure, and then they didn't explain the results of the investigation. So that's still quiet. I mentioned earlier, if you're going to do a freedom of information request, if we're entitled to see it, put it on a website and let us see it. Don't make us go through this process. That does nothing but upset parents. I think at the board table, the error that's being made by the trustees presently is they don't, when I talk about this, they don't engage in robust debate. Nobody asks any questions. If I'd have been on the board when they came out and said everything was okay, I would have been like, okay, well, let's explain it to the public. What do we mean by it's over or it's okay? I'm not even getting it right. I'm not sure what they said, but it hasn't been brought up since. I don't even remember. But there was no explanation of any resolve, and that incident.
Well, their explanation was that it was just closed. That was it, closed, done, they weren't talking about it. Right, I didn't realize it. I don't know if that comes from my side. Obviously, this is about the bus investigation, so it is something that is very dear to my heart. I read the letter, and I know at least one of the people that filed it. It was also another Jim. Reading the letter, it says that 0 documents exist. And if you have any further question, you should contact this other lawyer. The funny thing is, if you do that, then you knock yourself out of this bracket of following this paper chain. And so then they don't have to say anything because it's not an official thing. It's not an official follow-up. What you actually have to do is open a different FOIA request and word it differently. The issue that I have with the FOIA request returning 0, there was no explanation. So even if you call them, they'll be like, we just have to file another one. No, there should have been, I can't release this because it involves minors. I can't release this because it involves sexual allegation. I can't release this because it involves somebody that is deceased. There's nothing there. And as soon as it was released, and they're just like, what is this? There's nothing here. Okay, the lawyers, they did their job. They filled out whatever paper, but not a single board member explained. And they had every right to, because that's what the other lawyer said, that they're allowed to stand up and say, okay, this isn't from the board, but we want you to know. They can't explain this for this reason.
Okay. What is your philosophy regarding special education in the sport, or perhaps lack thereof, against the school? What will you do to ensure that students with special education needs are included in mainstream classroom instruction or provide a challenging curriculum in a self-contained classroom. Jim, we'll start with you.
We need to take care of our special needs children. I think a lot of people, and I don't have any special needs children. I probably have special needs myself, but you know what I'm talking about. But this has to be taken care of because these are people, and we've got to educate them to the best of their ability. And we've got to put our best foot forward for this. To the extent we can include them into the classrooms and that works effectively, I think that's great. To the extent it doesn't, we can't do it. And we've got to make sure that everybody is challenged in education to be the best that they can be. But these are people, and these are good people, and they deserve the best shot we can give them as educators, and that's what I want to make sure we see happen.
Well, at the last board meeting, they did talk about a PE program that worked with special needs and how successful it's been. And I think that's great because everybody needs physical exercise. In regards to special needs and how everybody fits, everybody's on the spectrum, everybody's different, everybody has their own plan. And so everybody should be able to work to their limitations. If you have somebody that has the mentality of a 9-month-old, you can't put them into like a physics classroom. But maybe you have an autistic student that is so incredibly gifted in calculus. We shouldn't stop them from taking calculus. Maybe they're amazing at it. There was an episode of America's Got Talent that had somebody that they believed to have a mentality of like a 4 or 5-month-old. He was able to babble and that was it. They stuck him in front of a piano and he was able to not only play the piano, he was able to sing fully on key a song that he had heard on the radio. Not able to read music, but that means that he was able to hear a song and to recreate it. And that would be perfect in a music classroom. So the child should only be held back from their own limitations. They should be able to live up to their potential.
What do you believe your role would be as a trustee in regards to executive and administrative oversight in the district, curriculum development, and community engagement with the citizens of Prosper ISD?
In regards to oversight, I feel like we haven't been really keeping up with like the superintendent. She does do a lot of things, and she is very friendly. She's very nice, but at the same time, I feel like there's this accountability piece that is missing. And so that is the job of the school board, is to keep the superintendent kind of in line. I don't mean to say that like derisively, but I mean, we are her boss and we should be able to ask questions, we should be able to follow up with her, and we should be able to get straight answers.
Well, so what do you believe your role is in administrative oversight, curriculum development, and community engagement?
Well, for the curriculum development, we have to keep the teachers involved. Now, they do have a curriculum and instructional department who is separate from the teachers when they're involved with the teachers. And so there needs to be better cohesion between that and the board, making sure that the teachers are actually being heard and we don't have somebody breathing down their throat. We have to do this. Okay, I understand. We have teams that we have to follow. At the same time, we have to be able to listen to our teachers because they are the experts of these children. They are the experts that went through their master's degree and all of their professional development hours they have to maintain every year to keep their license going. So we just have to bridge the gap and make sure that they are being heard.
Do you have an opinion? Oh, did you want to?
I never got the most.
I mean, oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jay. Sorry. My apologies.
The way I see this thing shaking out is,
Well, you
Go
lost.
out.
Yeah, we went out.
Hello?
You guys might have to share.
No, it
Oh, it's back on.
It's getting back on.
Are we back?
Yeah.
Okay. I've seen a lot of the policy, I think it says that the board of trustees is supposed to support the superintendent. See, I would replace support with direct, because that's our job. We are elected by the constituents to sit on a board to direct and have policy oversight for the district. Well, if I'm there just to support, then that word confuses me. I feel like I have no accountability, I don't really have any responsibility to do anything. So I think that needs to get changed first. And then I don't want to be dabbling in curriculum and doing that sort of stuff. I don't think that's our role, but our role is to set policy so that we're accountable to the constituents. So when something goes wrong, you know where to go. You don't go to the superintendent. You're coming to us, asking us why such and such is happening, and so on and so on. Let's just give it a second on the question.
Okay,
Oh,
so
sorry, I got it. My mind's going back.
curriculum development and community engagement.
Right, what I plan to do is have town halls. Okay, I did it before when I was on the school board in Richardson. I met with people, and that's not a way to tell people things you're not supposed to tell them. That's not what it's for. You're there to tell them what your thoughts are on what's going on in the school district. You're there to listen to the constituents, basically complain to you about what's going on, or tell you the great things that are happening, so you know how to, again, direct and set policy for the school district. That's what I believe is the role of the trustee.
Do you have an opinion about social emotional learning and mental health assessments in the schools? If so, what is your position? Jim, we'll start with you.
We are an academic institution. We're not an emotional therapy institution. I don't think we're qualified to do that. I don't think that's the role we've been called to do. So there may be those needs, and they need to be addressed outside of the school system. Schools are to be about academics. And then we start dabbling in all these other areas like SEL or politics or critical race theory or anything else you want to put out there, and we've left our academic focus. And I want us to stay focused on academics. Let me give you a little example I've been talking to people about. We have a swimming safety class that we give to, I think it's third grade. Great program, okay? I want all kids to be water safe. Has nothing to do with academics. I would look at that program and say, hey, why don't we get the city to offer that in the summertime? Or maybe as a school district, we offer it in the summertime. But you don't need to cut into the 182 days of academic instruction to teach swimming safety. But hear me, good program, just something that I would probably say, let's move that over here and do it at a different time. So I think just putting the word education behind another word or a phrase doesn't mean it fits into the academic focus that I would want, if that helps.
As I said at the board meeting, what was it, Monday? It wasn't that long ago. I work on a trauma floor. At any given time on my 36-bed unit, I have at least 2 rooms that are filled with unsuccessful attempts at suicide. They take extra staffing, they take extra time, they take a person that watches them constantly, and a lot of times we have to take away all of their plastic bags, all the trash bags, we have to bind all of their shower curtains, all of the pull cords that they use for emergencies. There is something going on with our society that we are not adapting to our own lifestyles. So this social emotional learning that we are teaching these children of self-affirmations, of how to build up positivity, of how to cope with situations that happen in their lives are important. We just had a student that committed suicide. His father, Jerry, was very outspoken about he committed suicide. We want donations to go to, suicide research and all of that. The first place that kid is really going to show is where they spend the majority of their time, which is in the school. And so they can follow up outside of the school with
professionals, but it'll be recognized at the school, and the school has a duty to act in order to get them the help that they need or to push them in the right direction and inform the parents that there's a problem here and it needs to be addressed before something happens.
Did you want to know?
That was very good.
All right, we'll move on to the next question.
I've seen lots of things.
What is your view on the current school board meeting process, and how do you think executive sessions should be used versus public forum? Eileen?
I feel like Jim and I can both go like, boo to that. I mean, not the last board meeting, but a good 4 board meetings before that, the one board meeting ended at 11:52 p.m. For a board meeting that started at 7. We had 20 minutes of board meeting. We had 4 hours of sitting there staring at each other. And I like Jim, but I don't like staring at Jim for 4 hours. They do that every time. I have not been to a board meeting where they have closed session. You're telling me that there is something that they can't even discuss in front of other people for hours at a time every single month. I mean, we've already discussed this several times, that we should be able to sit here and talk back and forth to each other and say, hey, this item on finance line, blah, 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 in regards to high school number 4, what is this? What is this for? Why is the natatorium on the back burner? Obviously, we did some swimming and stuff. We don't have any conversation. There are times where you can go through the entire meeting and not hear a single other person speak, other than, do you have a motion to adjourn? And I mean, that obviously has to change, and I think we're both in agreement with that.
I have sat through executive session meetings, and I did it before when I was on the school board in Richardson, and we stuck with, is this thing dead?
Went out again? Do you mind sharing? We can just go back to sharing if you want. Here, we'll
That would be when
Can you guys
start
hear that?
working again.
Yeah.
Okay, and I was wondering why I couldn't hear myself. I can hear myself real good now. So anyway, when you sit in executive session, the purpose of those is not to leak out any confidential information. Okay, so before, when I was on the school board, our board was very good about that. We rarely went into executive session, but when we did, normally as I remember, is we let people know if we were going to come out and make a decision. Okay, the purpose was to go into executive session just to discuss executive session issues and not make a decision. We did those on Saturdays. There was no reason the board people would come into a meeting. I've never in my life seen a school board have executive sessions during a regularly scheduled meeting during the evenings. It seems absurd to me, and it almost borderlines being rude to your constituents. What they talk about back there, I don't know. They are in there a lot. Are they supposed to be chit-chatting? No. Are they supposed to be persuading other people to do things? No. And they're supposed to be having confidential conversations. And I presume that's what they're doing. And all I can tell you is that is in fact what they're doing. They're spending an awful lot of time having confidential conversations.
Okay. What do you think the role of a parent and parent input should play? And please explain your answer. And Jim, we'll start with you.
Say that again.
What do you think the role is of parent input, and what should that role play in the district and you shaping your position as a trustee? And what is the role of parent input in what you'll be doing as a trustee?
Well, in my opinion, the parents are the boss, and you listen to the parents. And you've got parents that may whine about things you don't agree with. Okay, but what you don't do is shun them. If a parent has an issue, I think it's our obligation to deal with that issue. We may disagree with them, we may agree with them, but to ignore them is where the rub becomes bad. Again, I did it before, I had the town halls, I listened to people. Sometimes you don't know, I mean, I've been telling you guys, I don't know the extent of the discipline problems in the schools because they're not telling us. Now, if I knew the extent, then you know how to deal with it. So I think parents are a good source of information for us to better understand what's going on in the schools. And if you're going to serve your constituency well, I suggest you listen to them very carefully.
So parents, for the most part, are the experts on their children. When it comes to meeting with teachers, when it comes to meeting among other parents and everything, we have to be open to listening to them. I mean, there's going to be a group of people that vote for each trustee, and they expect you to stand for them, stand for what they think, and you should be open to hearing what they have to say. Again, they're the expert on their particular children, so they know how best to get through to them what they need, some things that they might not necessarily say. And as a trustee, you have to be able to represent them and be open to them and to be willing to talk to them and discuss any issues that they might have.
Okay, Jim, you want to respond?
Yeah, I wanted to give you an example. If you were to email a trustee, I don't even know where it goes. You know, I'll get some immediate response back, some auto response that says something about, if you have any questions, call some other person. I mean, it's the whole issue of you're just ignored, and it's not right. And you got to talk to your parents. And I mean, when I did the town halls, my other trustees didn't really want me doing them. The lawyer for the district was having a cow because they want total consensus. Well, there comes a time when you got to look your lawyer in the eye and say, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go out and speak on behalf of the board. I'm speaking on behalf of Jim Harwood. And that's it, and that's perfectly fine. But they want, you know, this whole machine wants to silence you and quiet you and get you just to go along to get along. And as a trustee, to be effective with parents, you're going to have to buck that system.
So the last email that was sent to his trustee actually comes back immediately with, you know, the saying that we all know, your email is very important to us. Please wait until we can respond to you, but if you have a problem with something specific, you actually have to go through the teacher, the principal, up into the superintendent, and it tries to go through the chain of command that actually cuts out the school board.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and cut right to the closing arguments. Thank you all for being here, and we're going to give you each 2 minutes for a closing statement. So Eileen, you're going to start, and Jim, you'll finish up. So again, 2 minutes, your closing statement.
I feel like I'm in a courtroom now. That's where Jim's all right, so I'm running for school board as a mom and a wife of a teacher. I have children in the district currently, spanning over 3 different schools, and that'll be up and coming. My youngest, or not my youngest, but my 3rd child will actually be going to preschool at Prestonwood as well, so I'm kind of spanning over a whole bunch of different stuff. But I believe in the transparency for parents and teachers and other students not to be afraid to say something, because we're here for them. We're here to give them the best experience that they can and to prepare them to move on beyond high school in what they choose, whether that be college, whether that be military, whether that be their trade. We're here for them. We're here to support them. We're here to give them the best experience that they can have. And we have to be open to feedback. We also have to be very praiseworthy for what they actually are achieving, because we're in an A-graded district. That is great. We need to stay in an A-graded district. And we can do that if we're all willing to work together.
My name is Jim Herblin, and I previously mentioned I'm a forensic CPA, and I really want to bring that skill set to the district. We haven't talked really about money at all. Again, in the job that I have every day, it's all about following the money and getting to the facts and then making good decisions. I do feel that Prosper has a really good school district, but when we have issues, it's like if you have a leaky roof, if you don't fix it, your whole house is going to be a mess. And I feel here on some of these curriculum issues that we've talked about, the sexualization of our kids, I want to get that cleaned up. And the only way I know to do it is to put that evidence on the table and deal with it. And you know what? If everything turns out that there's nothing there, great. We don't have a lot to deal with. But there's a lot of people in the community that have seen things and they're suspicious, and I want to put that suspicion to rest so everybody's comfortable and we're all focused about academics, and that's the main thing that I want to drive, is keeping our academics so they Prosper is the best school district in the state. And if that means I have to go to Austin to raise all sorts of cane with the TEA or the TASB, I will do that for you. Okay, I'm not going to bow to Caesar to let him tell us to do things that our little family here disagrees with. You know, we have our own value system, and I don't think it squares with what TEA is pushing down our throats. And we have to tell those guys, not on our watch. And I just want you to know, you have my word on that. We have to make noise. We have to protest. We have to, and I don't mean protest enough. Walking down the streets, and we've got to go to Austin and tell these guys that are leading the show, we don't like what you're doing. You know, we're not going to go along with this. And I promise you, that's where I see the main effect of a good school board. Remember, that's what we have to do. It's all about doing the right thing. We know what the right thing is. It's just go do it.
All right, let's have a hand for these two candidates. Now, keep in mind, we did invite all of the other candidates that are going to be on the ballot. These are the two that showed up. So that's a big part of life in general, just showing up. And you can tell that no matter how you feel about either one of these candidates, they're both very passionate about Prosper ISD. So we want to thank them for being here, of course. And I should have mentioned, I want to thank our translators back there as well. Say thank you to them. Gracias. To all of our Spanish-speaking people. That's all the Spanish you're going to get out of me tonight. Thank you all for being here in person, no matter where you land on the issues. You made the effort to come out here. I wish every one of these seats was full. So get to the Dudes Talking Freedom Facebook page and share this and make sure that everybody sees where these candidates, the two candidates that bothered to show up and aren't afraid to tell you where they stand on the issue. Be sure to share that on your social media. Thank you all for being here today.
We have 2 minutes for questions.
We have two, okay. You want to do questions?
Oh, I was gonna include something else. I don't mean to cut into your 2 minutes,
Sure.
but I know that somebody did ask me where they're just like, hey, so how do we know what all of the candidates are thinking, feeling, written out, and not just standing around? I was contacted, and Jim can tell me if I'm missing any, by iVoter Guide, which I think is a publication.
That's a good one, yeah.
The Collin County Conservative Republicans, Dallas Morning News, the League of Women Voters, the Prosper Citizens Group, Voter 411, the McKinney Values PAC, and the Dallas Express. Did I miss any of those?
I don't know, there's some of those I didn't get.
Those are the ones that reached out to me for a written statement of what we stand for. So I just want people to know what's out there, especially for candidates that aren't here. Anyway, question.
We have a great question from a student from Prosper High School.
Please.
I'm Jaden Malloy. I'm a junior at Hofstra High School. I moved here in late 2020, and my thing about my school is, it's pretty nice. The main goal of a school is to educate, and in order for a student to be educated, they have to feel safe in that environment to do so. So my question is, how can I feel safe when there's rhetoric spread about the bathrooms I'm allowed to use? That feels like a pretty trivial thing to have to cover, given the load of circumstances we deal with, such as gun violence and drug abuse. And bullying. I deal with that as well. To a point about the admin not following up on what they say, I've experienced a lot of empty promises in my time here. I'm trying to fix that, but it's a slow road. So my question is, how am I supposed to get the best education I can and feel safe and supported in the school when there are people deciding what I'm allowed to do bathroom-wise? And that's one of my least concerns throughout the day. Oh, yeah.
Just
I can walk up to that.
Hand the mic back to,
Just hand it back.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I mean, we talked a little bit about the bathroom. For me, the bathroom itself wasn't a huge deal, but I also work in healthcare. And so, I mean, to me, I just feel like whether it's a urinal, whether it's a toilet, whatever it is, should be behind a stall, behind a door. And therefore, people should feel safe going to a bathroom because it's a normal bodily function. Every single person in the planet does it. You shouldn't have to hold it to dash across the entire school so you can go to a bathroom that you can't use. It's a bathroom.
Well, more specifically, I think what my child was saying, that Jim specifically said children with special needs are great people and they're human, but to talk so derogatory about trans people.
That was precisely what he said.
So that was our question is to Jim.
My other piece to it is, what grounds, like, scientifically do you have to speak on those topics?
Hey, I don't want to be disrespectful.
It's 8:30, I
Yeah, the
understand.
school does.
No worries,
Okay, right.
not a problem.
Thank
You can answer if you want.
That would
No,
be
I wish we
lovely.
would have had.
If Jim wants to answer the question out in the parking lot, we're totally down with
Yeah,
that.
and everybody can follow up with the candidates. Unfortunately, we do have to be respectful of the school's time. The out time is 8:30, guys. So, but please follow up with the candidates individually.
Right there's the community.
Okay, I'll answer you.
You'd like to answer your question.
Has a thing to me with the bathroom issue. Boys have been going to boys' bathrooms since the beginning, as girls have been going to girls' bathrooms. What I don't want to see,
What about single stall ones?
well, I don't think it's necessary. I mean, it's an issue of decency. I don't think females would want me coming into their bathrooms. I would be uncomfortable with that. So that's why I've always opposed it. It's not a matter of just, I need to go to the bathroom when I can go in any bathroom I want. We have boys' bathrooms for boys and girls' bathrooms for girls. And that's how I believe it should remain.
Okay, thank you all. Thank you. Please follow up with the candidates.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Ally. Thanks, Dan.
Yeah.
Jim, I want to shake your hand like those child friends of action.